Okay, in our next assignment, we're going to be exploring color harmonies, which are the basic techniques artists and designers use for creating color schemes. So for this assignment, we're going to be looking a lot at our color wheel because it really holds all the key information we need for this, okay? You're also going to be opening to a clean page in your visual journal. I'm going to be working between two visual journals just so that we have the color wheel as a reference the entire time we're working. But you can go ahead and just use the visual journal you have at home. And you're going to open to a new sheet of paper, and you're going to first label complementary color pairs on your page. The next thing I want you to do is I want you to draw out 3 boxes, and each box I want you to split into 2 sections. You can use a ruler to do that, or you can go ahead and sketch those out by hand, whatever's easier for you, okay? So the first thing we're going to be looking at are these complementary color pairs. We'll also be looking at split complementaries later, but before we can look at split complementaries, we have to understand what a complementary color is. So complementary colors are colors that are opposite each other on the color wheel. And there are some very specific rules about this, and we're going to be setting up our basic complementaries on this page so that you can easily remember them. So, for example, if we look at our primary colors and we find their color, that's their complement, it's directly opposite the color wheel. So we have red and green, blue and orange, and yellow and violet. They are directly opposite each other on the color wheel. So these colors are very high contrast when they are put side by side, meaning they make each other look especially vibrant, okay? So these are colors we usually only use in small amounts together. When we just use them as they are, as pairs in large quantities, they can be a bit overwhelming. But they are important to understand, and we're going to explore these now. So the first thing we're going to do is make sure that we have activated our watercolor paints, which means we've just added a drop of water to each of our watercolors. Okay, you're also going to need a paper towel. It's always a good idea to have a paper towel handy when you are working with watercolors, and a container of water to work with. Mine's a little bit dirty already, but it'll be fine. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to start with yellow, and we're going to set up our first complementary color, okay? If you don't have watercolors at home, hopefully you've picked them up from the school by now, but if you haven't, you can go ahead and do this with crayon, colored pencil, or marker, but please make sure you're using the color that actually says yellow, that actually says violet. Make sure it doesn't say red violet or something like that, because if you do that, you're not really setting up the complementaries correctly. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is we're just going to come right in here, and we are going to paint our first rectangle in yellow, okay? Okay, so we're going to go ahead and let that dry, and we're going to move on to the next set. So our first primary on our color wheel is yellow. Our next one is red. So we're going to come over to our next set of rectangles, and we're going to paint the first one in red. Okay, so while this one's drying, while our red is drying, we're going to go ahead and move down to our next primary color, which you should know at this point is blue. So we've done our yellow, our red, and our blue, our primary colors. Okay, now you're going to go ahead and let those dry. Probably, I'd set a timer for about, let's say 15 minutes, and we'll come back and check on these in 15 minutes, and if they're dry, we're going to go ahead and put in their complementary color pair. Okay, so it has actually been about 10 minutes, and I just checked to make sure that my colors are dry. They do appear to be dry, So I'm going to go ahead and begin setting up my complementary color pairs. So I'm going to go back to my watercolors and my color wheel, and I'm going to find the complementary color for each of my primaries. So remember, a complementary is directly across the color wheel from the other color. So if we come here and we look at yellow and we go directly across from it, we have violet. Okay, so our complementary color for yellow is violet. So a lot of, I feel like football teams often choose to wear complementary color pairs. So I wonder if you can think of a football team that might use some purple or violet with accents of yellow. Wonder who we could think of. We can also think of other sports teams that wear these colors. It's a popular combination. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and rinse my brush out, and I'm going to do my next complementary color. So let's go ahead and take a look at our color wheel again. So our next primary was red, and if we go directly across the color wheel, we come to our secondary color of green. So we're going to go ahead and paint green in beside our red. We see this combination used a lot in flags and at holidays. I'm just going to take a second to point something out. I hope you guys noticed that I went outside of the line a little bit here on my page. A lot of you have been getting really upset about making mistakes in your work. Mistakes are going to happen. They happen to the best of us. It's not a big deal. So we just find a way to work with it. So my attempt to make that look less obvious was to just go outside the line the whole way. And bring that line down and outside of the box a little bit. It's not a big deal if you go outside the lines a little bit, guys. So remember that mistakes happen even to those of us who've been painting for years. Okay, so we're ready to move on to our next complementary. So our next primary color is blue, and if we come directly across the color wheel, we have orange. So we're gonna go ahead and paint the box beside our blue in orange. And again, plenty of athletic teams like to wear this combination. It's not a combination I particularly love to wear, but definitely I know plenty of athletic teams that embrace the use of these two colors. And I can think of plenty of other ways that these colors are used together in design. Okay, so for review, these are our 3 basic complementary color pairs. And a complementary is a color that is directly opposite of a color on the color wheel. So again, we have yellow and violet, we have red and green, and blue and orange. In our next video, we're going to be looking at what are called split complementaries, which is why we need to make sure that we have a good understanding of what a complementary color is now.